It's pretty and all, but could you stop? Sorry. It's just that last time I heard it, all my friends got killed.
That's awful.
It's weird the Red Man would sing it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it.
After that mess with Scar Chain is over, Shiro is looking for Grandpa in their secret room. All he left her was some lollies. That stingy old cunt. Couple of things worth noting about Shiro is she feels no pain, only eats sweets, and only has foggy memories of her time as Wretched Egg. She doesn't even remember killing Hagire. It's a little sad to see her so worried, but she shouldn't cry just yet. Grandpa's closer than she thinks. For fooling around with Scarchain, Ganta has been given a week of solitary confinement. During his absence, Wonderland's once secret underground den of human experimentation and blood sport has become common knowledge. The public is both perplexed and furious at the blatant slaughter. Nagi would be pleased. Some guards let Ganta know that it's time for him to leave and... Okay, sorry to slam the brakes on so quickly, but why are the English translations of this series so horrible? I've been using the official Viz translation for these videos so I can get HD images, but god the dialogue is fucked sometimes. This guy tells him they put him in there so he wouldn't give info on Scarchain away when he obviously means because. I remember a misprint when Grandpa asks Shiro if she was the Wretched Egg, ? Even though there's no way he could possibly be in the dark about that fact. There's an old fan translation I could be using, but it looks like it's been put through 19 photocopiers and contains such gems as, is there only bad stuff in reality? And Deadmans. Despite their best efforts to destroy it, this might be one of the best chapters of Deadman Wonderland, and one of the reasons I love the character of Shiro. Ganta's pretty shaken up by the events of the last arc, but she tries to cheer him up. He's not having it. When she tries to force-feed Ganta a biscuit, he says he can't even taste it. She goes to Minatsuki of all people, but she's no help. But actually, this is when Minatsuki starts improving. She still gets on my nerves a little bit, but at least now she's funny. Maybe the ghost of Rokuro possessed her or something. Shiro is struggling to understand what she's feeling. Ganta's depression is hurting her too. It's sad that she's so sheltered that she doesn't even recognize or understand basic emotions like this. Fortunately, Chaplin does. She barges into Minatsuki's cell claiming to have all the answers. There's a bit of a running gag of Chaplin entering people's cells without permission. She's already done it to Ganta twice. It's pretty funny, if not a little creepy, especially when Ganta wakes up to find her in his bed. Gross. Chaplin claims Shiro is hurting over Ganta because she's in love, and she knows just the thing to lift his spirits. She brings Shiro and Minatsuki to her kitchen. Apparently she's a pretty good cook. Minatsuki hates this, but Shiro is excited to get started. Let's get cooking. Turns out Shiro doesn't have a shred of talent in the kitchen. It's so horrible that Masu, a man that can eat brick walls and steel, is knocked out instantly. Chaplin quickly gives up on Shiro, but she won't budge. She would do anything to make Ganta smile again. The smell of Shiro's cooking permeates throughout the halls of G-Ward as Ganta runs into Senji. He tells Ganta he looks like shit. Ganta's not taking the events of Scarchain well. It feels like it was all for nothing. Senji calls him out on his blindness. Nagi didn't die for nothing. The outside world is finally waking up to the horrors of Wonderland, even if he can't see it from inside. Later that night, Ganta follows the smell to Chaplin's kitchen and sees Shiro desperately trying to cook something edible. He just brushes it off and goes to bed. When he wakes up the next morning, Shiro is lying on the floor with a tray of food. She lies and tells Ganta that today's rations came early. Worried he might not appreciate it, but he pushes himself to give it a go. Shiro braces for disappointment as Ganta takes a bite. It's good. Despite tasting a little too sweet, Ganta seems to like it. It's the first thing he's tasted all week. Shiro was too busy cooking to eat yesterday, so Ganta shares it with her. He smiles with a renewed sense of optimism. Maybe things won't be this bad forever. As Ganta was deep in thought, Shiro finished his food without him. greedy. I already said in part 1 that I love seeing Ganta and Shiro fluff, but this is them at their very fluffiest. Wasn't that beautiful? Back above ground, Makina is having a little meeting with Azami. Makina tells Azami about G-Wad and the Deadmen. Tamaki's supply is running low and he needs more. Azami was on the list of candidates. She gives her a tracking device to use her as a mole. When the candidates get called in for a completely unsuspicious checkup, the facility's creepy doctor, Ray, gives her a nondescript booster shot. Ray was in part 1, but I don't think I ever brought her up. It almost seems like she's the only doctor in Wonderland because she wears many hats. She removes the organs from Deadmen in Too Bad for the Loser. She's also been researching Wretched Egg on Tamaki's behalf. She sends Azami back to her cell, and before long, Tamaki's Chosen start experiencing some weird side effects. That doesn't look good, does it? 1 month later, Tamaki gets an angry call from his military connection, Major Aohi. As the new director of Wonderland, the Scar Chain leaks are his responsibility. It's getting harder to remain silent. Tamaki isn't nervous, however. He has a plan. Without any prior announcement, Tamaki opens G-Ward. The Deadmen all enjoy the first sunlight they've seen in a long time, and Ganta runs off to meet Azami. Turns out she performs in the circus with her pet armadillo, Kencho. She's not exactly making dog race levels of CP. The two catch up, and it's really nice to see. Remember, most of these guys aren't his friends. The series doesn't focus too hard on it, but G-Ward must feel so lonely for him now. At least he has Shiro. Azami comments that Ganta has changed. He's a lot more confident than the flaky coward she met in the mess hall. It's no surprise after the shit he's seen. Before Azami can ask where he went, these pricks steal Kincho and throw him onto this signpost with no way to get down. Ganta uses his branch to free him as the prisoners freak out. They didn't expect to see one of those dead guys out here. Azami is a little shocked, but it quickly wears off. She offers him a band-aid for his Ganta gun wound, but Ganta gives it to her instead. She was cut by falling debris. Then Azami almost lets some feelings slip. She might want to be more than just friends, but quickly backtracks. The fact that Azami would develop feelings this quickly is a little strange, but it starts to make a little more sense when we learn more about her. The meeting is cut short when she suddenly collapses. She's starting to feel some side effects of her injection. I've lost count of the amount of times I've shown my friends this panel without context. Azami leaves Kensho with Ganta and she goes to see a nurse. I have only good feelings about this. The next day, Ganta is training with Senji. His new gun could still use some work. The evolution of his branch against Genkaku came with some consequences. Every time he fires a shot now, he gets pains in his chest. The red diamond is growing. Ganta's branch might be growing more potent, but the full extent of the damage won't be revealed until very late into the series. Shiro wants to join in on the blood flinging and tries to force hers to move. Senji tells her to piss off because she's getting in the way. That and her skin-tight suit is making him uncomfortable. Remember, this guy can't stand nudity. The two ignore her and get back to training. But then, Shiro succeeds. We already know she's a dead man at this stage, but only her Wretched Egg persona had access to the power. But it seems the two had more in common than we thought. Before she can show them the good news, Four Eyes appears on TV. This is the second time Ganta's training has been interrupted by Senji's TV suddenly turning on. He's gonna have to start unplugging it. Tamaki is holding a surprise press conference. It's time to break the silence. Yes, the rumours are true. The Deadmen are real. In fact, he's brought some with him. The curtain behind him lifts and we see two preparing for battle. One wearing a mask and a cloak. The other is thrilled at the prospect of getting to show off on TV. The two begin, and when the masked Deadman uses its branch, it's not like anything we've seen before. Similar to an eel or a snake, or, in this case, a fish, I guess. It bites its opponent and it starts swelling. The masked Deadman flicks one of these buboes and he explodes. This is why the Deadmen have to be contained. They're too dangerous to release. The press eats this up because, of course they do. During the match, Ganta noticed a familiar band-aid on the masked Deadman's hand, the same one he gave to Azami yesterday. As Ganta tries to convince himself it was just coincidence, Senji admires Tamaki's balls. What the hell was that? As if on cue, their pondering is interrupted by Todo, who claims to have the answers. But first, he's gotta give Senji a lick. Gross. Despite once being the ultimate, Todo lost all of his branches when he disappeared, claiming now to be the weakest Deadman. I'm glossing over this scene because I already went over it in part 1, but this time before he can take Ganbare Gun, he's stopped by Shiro. Interesting. Todo introduces himself properly and begins to explain. Before he does, I wanted to point something out. Notice how Todo shakes Ganta's right hand, the same one he's been using for Ganbare Gun. He definitely took Ganta's branch here too. That thing we just saw was a forgery, an artificial Deadman created by Tamaki. The Viz translation calls them Ninben, but forgery sounds better to my English-speaking brain. It also just sounds cooler. Isn't it weird that Todo would just instantly know this? All of the Deadmen celebrate the return of Todo. With the atmosphere in G-Ward becoming increasingly uncertain, it's comforting for the ultimate Deadman to return. They throw a party in his honor, Senji gets shit-faced, and Ganta is off in his own world thinking about Azami. That couldn't have been her on TV, right? Todo leaves the party to check on him. Ganta says that the forgery on TV reminded him of the Red Man. Todo agrees they look similar, but only on the surface. Ganta is surprised that Todo would know the Wretched Egg personally. He speaks about her with a dramatic reverence. To him, the Wretched Egg is a thing of beauty. He almost spills her true identity to Ganta before Shiro interrupts. Very clever. Worth noting is when Shiro starts pestering Ganta, Todo claims he's jealous of their young love. For now, we're led to believe that he's just teasing, but for reasons that won't be revealed until later, there might be some truth to this statement. Before Ganta can ask him more questions, Todo leaves. It seems like Shiro has been eating more Grand Bar chocolate, and Ganta points out that she's drunk, but also comments that she always seems to be having fun. Shiro says it's because he's here now. Ganta is all she needs. Aww. Ganta doesn't know how to react to this, but he starts to blush. Was Shiro always this cute? Oh god. Yeah, depending on how you view Shiro and Wretched Egg, and whether or not they're different characters, Ganta is about to fall in love with the person that fucked up his life. Remember, he still has no idea who the Red Man is. This exchange elicits a wide range of emotions. Is this adorable or horrifying? I have no idea. And it's all by design. This is the genius of revealing the Wretched Egg to the audience early. I don't know what the hell to feel, and that was definitely intended. The next day it looks like Tamaki has left them some presents. The Deadmen wake up to find forgery masks in their cells, all with personalised messages specifically to wind them up. Pause if you want to read them for yourself, but for some of these characters this is the first bit of development they've got in all series. All of the masks have one thing in common. A message written on the front that says, "Today's Carnival Corpse, G-Ward Room 93. The Deadmen rush in and are greeted by forgeries hanging from the ceiling. They descend and Tamaki starts streaming the first Carnival Corpse to the morbidly curious public. Tamaki gives the order and the battle begins. It very quickly becomes apparent there's something very wrong with these new Deadmen. The forgeries all wear masks with receptors hooked to their brain's reward centers. Tamaki keeps them under control with an endless stream of dopamine. Effectively, they're brainless zombies chasing their next high. It's an interesting reversal on the villainous mind-controlled army trope. Usually in fiction, the villain will keep his minions under control with the threat of pain, which usually ends in them turning on their master in a moment of weakness. This strategy is far more effective. By rewarding his army with constant pleasure, they'll do anything for him. They shrug off losing limbs like it's nothing and keep fighting. When Ganta shoots the mask off one of them, his fears are confirmed. Azami is among their ranks. She desperately puts it back on as Ganta stands frozen in denial, too distracted to notice the snake branch right above him. He's saved by the surprise appearance of Mockingbird. All of the Deadmen are overjoyed to see him join the fight. Even Tamaki is pleasantly surprised. The only one not happy to see him is Senji, who's pissed off that he's using Crowclaw. Something I like is that despite Senji and Todo using the same branch of Sin, they both have completely different fighting styles while using it. Senji is more of a brawler and is content using mostly just his arms. Todo creates blades all over his body and is far more acrobatic. He must be shredding himself to pieces to do this. Minatsuki turns this guy into a paste and Hitara burns the incapacitated fighters. Only one to go. The Deadmen all rush to the last forgery and Ganta panics. That's his old friend under that mask. Without thinking, he raises his hand, his body covered in red markings, and he blacks out. The livestream suddenly goes offline. Tamaki is perplexed. This is the first time he's seen a branch of Sin like this. He's gonna have to take another look at Ganta's data. When Ganta wakes up, he's surrounded by the destruction left by his final shot. All of the Deadmen but Azami are incapacitated. What the hell did he do? It seems like Ganta fell asleep again after witnessing the destruction he caused. He wakes up 3 days later to Shiro, who's been hiding him in Grandpa's room. By now the Forgeries have been greenlit for more funding, which is a little weird considering the 75% failure rate from the livestream. Todo questions if Ganta has any memory of what happened, but all he can remember is Azami. He runs off to tell Senji that he recognized one of the Forgeries as his friend, but he's just pissed that Ganta would seemingly turn on them like that. He names Ganta's new branch Ganbare Gun. In Japanese, Ganbare is a positive affirmation. An English equivalent would be keep it up, or go for it, or do your best. Fitting since whenever he uses it, he's doing his best gun. Senji was most likely being sarcastic here, and even tries to stab Ganta. But it seems he didn't have it in him. He curses Ganta for turning him soft and tells him to piss off. The other Deadmen all push him away with similar hostility. He returns to his cell to find it trashed with messages scrawled on the walls calling him a traitor. Todo says that Shiro was trying to prevent him from seeing this. The Forgeries continued killing Deadmen while he was asleep. All of the uncertainty and fear in G-Wad has manifested as hatred against Ganta for his actions during the Carnival Corps. Instead of reprimanding him, Todo just asks whose side Ganta is on. Ganta says he wants to be on the side of good and justice, but Todo just laughs. Ganta can't even escape the abuse outside G-Wad as some Genpop prisoners beat the shit out of him, the existence of Deadmen causing panic above ground. Despite this, all Ganta can think of is how nice the weather is. Earlier in the series, he probably would have just cried, but now he's just detached. Despite the world seemingly being against him, he still has one person on his side, Shiro. She fights off the prisoners beating him and helps him up. Isn't that adorable? She's ready to help Ganta save his friend, and even shows him her newly awakened branch of Sin, much to Ganta's horror. Shiro is now a target. He can't drag her into Tamaki's den. With a heavy heart, Ganta tells Shiro, "Fuck off, I hate you." You've gotta be fucking joking. Yeah, the series would later justify this as Ganta protecting Shiro. We can tell by the look on his face here that it hurt him to say those words. But the first time I read this, I was so pissed off at this little shit. Even now, I feel like Ganta probably could have tried to let her down easy first. It probably would have softened the blow in the eyes of the reader. He leaves Shiro in tears as he goes off to find Azami. Nice going. Meanwhile, Makina is drowning her sorrows. Tamaki still has the upper hand and her patience is just about out, so she's calling some of her old military buddies, including this journalist, Echo. I don't have much to say about Echo. His entire character is he wants to fuck Makina. Okay, that's a lie. He wants to fuck everyone. She violently hangs up on him and then gets some good news. Thanks to the tracker on Azami, they now know where the Forgeries are being held, and it's possible Tamaki's control device is down there as well. But she can't just send any old guard. She doesn't have to wait long for an offering. Turns out Ganta was snooping around Azami's old cell. You pervert. He's being interrogated by guards, but Makina takes over. I think it's pretty funny that the last time these two characters interacted, one was trying to kill the other with a big robot. Fortunately for Makina, Ganta is stupid and easy to manipulate, and starts pushing his buttons. She calls him a pervert, an idiot, and a murderer to wind him up. As Ganta's anger peaks, she says her GPS has found where the forgeries are located, giving him a look as if to say, "Don't you use your branch of sin to free yourself and take this, please." Fortunately for Ganta, the gods beat him up pretty bad. He frees himself and steals Machina's tracker. That was easy. As Ganta rushes into enemy territory, we see Azami sleeping in the holding zone, and it's here we learn a bit about her past. Azami's life so far has been a cycle of abandonment. We get the sense that her family never really cared for her. To give you an idea, they don't even bother showing up in her dreams. Because of this neglect, she was convinced she couldn't rely on anyone, an attitude that would come back to haunt her. Once a member of a biker gang, she took the fall for an accident that killed another driver. Her lax attitude in court and unwillingness to defend herself put her in Wonderland. Inside, this cycle of turning down support continued. We even see glimpses of it during our interactions with Ganta so far. Now she's just one drugged up zombie of many. In a brief moment of lucidity, she questions what the hell she's been doing. She sees the star-shaped band-aid Ganta gave her, the only person who showed her any kind of support, despite her protests. She just rips it off and throws it away. She doesn't need him either. Great timing too, because it turns out she woke up just in time to take care of an intruder. She puts the mask back on, shuts off her brain and prepares to kill. Ganta recognizes her, but Azami doesn't acknowledge him. He's just an intruder. Ganta takes her mask and tells her to come with him, but Azami loses it and smashes Ganta through the ground into the cogs of G-Ward. This is enough to stop her for a moment, thinking she's killed her only friend, but quickly shoots down this thought. She needs to get her mask back. Unable to think straight, she sticks her arm through moving gears to get to it. In fact, her head is so foggy she forgot to check if Ganta was actually dead. Ganta tries to break through to her, but she's not listening. She continues to fight him as gears crush her arm. Despite being poisoned, Ganta reaches his arm through the snake to meet her, trying to pull her out. Azami's words to Ganta here are interesting. She doesn't tell him "go away" or "I'm gonna kill you," but "just forget about me." This isn't the mask talking, she knows how bad she's fucked up. She tells Ganta everything that led her up to this point. She doesn't need him, she'll be fine. Ganta instantly cuts through the bullshit. If that were true, she wouldn't be crying. This finally breaks through to Azami. After some hesitation, she finally drops the act. For the first time ever, she asks someone else for help. Ganta happily obliges and shoots the gears, freeing her. Don't ask me how her arm didn't get obliterated too. Despite this, Azami continues to berate Ganta. How could he be so reckless to break in and free her, stick his arm into her toxic branch, and just what the hell is a Ganbare Gun? That's a terrible name. Ganta just smiles. He wanted to be on the side of justice, but it seems Toto was right. It's never that simple. He can't save everyone. He just wants to protect his friends. Even if it means lying and being a dick and telling his best friend to fuck off. Fucking asshole. Speaking of Shiro, as all this is happening, she runs into the twins. She must still be looking for Grandpa. The twins have been cleaning up after Tamaki's forgeries, at least until their old master returns. Shiro warns them to get out of the way before she uses her Deadman powers. The twins just shrug this off. If she's not Wretched Egg, then she's not a threat. They show her the body they're taking care of, and tell her that could have been her if she wasn't careful. Deadmen are all targets to the forgeries after all. They conclude by telling her that ignorant children can't see how closely they're protected. Now Ganta's abrupt change in tone makes sense in her head. Again, I still think this scene needs work, but at least now Shiro's caught up. Ganta and Azami are about to leave G-Ward when he suddenly pushes her into a pipe. Ray has come looking for her. Ganta tells her that Azami is dead. The blood everywhere and the broken mask is enough to convince her. Azami escapes, and Ganta is taken to Tamaki. Back above ground, Makina's got her old military buddies together. We have Echo, the pervert, Gashima the goblin, and Bonbu, a character so detached and with such little charisma that he might as well be narrating these videos. Together they're gonna pull off a Deadman Wonderland destruction ceremony that until now has only existed in Karako's wettest dreams. Oh, fuck. Echo has even brought Makina a present, the Worm Eater sword, built using technology stolen by Scarchain when they escaped Wonderland. Neat. Back in G-Ward, Azami is having some weird hallucinations due to mask withdrawal. She re-enters G-Ward looking for help to save Ganta, but gets interrogated instead. I always found this kinda weird. You'd think they'd just kill her. Azami tells them she doesn't want to be a forgery anymore and how she was saved by Ganta, but nobody's listening. If you couldn't already tell, a huge theme in this arc is how much of a fucking asshole everyone in G-Ward is. It very quickly gets on the nerves. They all think this is trap, but Shiro drops in from a vent and breaks them up. Senji dies. Shiro heard them talking about Ganta. Azami begs her to come with her and she agrees. She doesn't even question her. Shiro calls the Deadmen out for the arrogant, moping children they are. While they were busy crying about their shitty memories and what they've lost, Ganta has been busting his ass to make sure he never has to lose anyone else. As they're running, Azami points out Shiro has matured a lot since she last saw her, even though the two have only met each other briefly for what can't have been longer than 5 minutes. Despite this, she's not wrong. Shiro used to just be a hanger-on in Ganta's adventure. Despite not being very bright, here she is taking matters into her own hands. The two bond over how much of an idiot he is, and how stupid they are for chasing after him. It's really nice to see Shiro making friends outside of Ganta without his help. She's grown a lot since the days of, if you want to die, I'll kill you. Ganta wakes up, not in his cell or a lab, but at a table. Tamaki sits across from him and kicks this poor guy when he drops a plate. The food isn't even poisoned. In fact, Tamaki has a proposition for Ganta. Ganta's not willing to hear him out. To try and butter him up, he gives him info on the Red Man. It's time to start getting some answers. The Wretched Egg was the creation of the former director of Deadman Wonderland. It meant everything to him. The objective of Carnival Corps was to find dead men who could keep it entertained for a while, but now he's seemingly been killed by his own creation. Interesting thing about Wretched Egg's creation: before the construction of Deadman Wonderland, this site was home to the National Disease Prevention Center, where both Hagire and Sorae Igarashi, Ganta's mother, were conducting research to boost the immune system. One of these experiments would give rise to the Wretched Egg. Ganta's mother and their connection to Wonderland was established early on in the series. We'll often see a destroyed piano in Hagire's office, which used to belong to Sorae. The National Disease Prevention Center is a place where Ganta spent most of his childhood. We later find out that his mother gave birth to him there as well. In fact, you could make the argument that both Ganta and the Wretched Egg were born in what would become Deadman Wonderland. The irony isn't lost on Tamaki, who rubs this in Ganta's face. When he's done, he explains what he's got planned. With Hagire gone, Tamaki can finally be candid. He doesn't want to keep the Wretched Egg contained in Wonderland. He wants it dead. The acquisition of Deadmen, the Undertakers, Worm Eater, and now the Forgeries were all in service of this goal, all of which pale in comparison to Ganta's potential. With such a powerful and still evolving branch, he might just be the one Tamaki's been looking for. The door behind Tamaki opens up to reveal... oh, never mind, it's a lab. Forgeries are being pushed to their absolute limits to create the strongest Deadmen possible. This sickens Ganta, who turns him down. He's not gonna help old Four Eyes after the shit he put him through. Something worth noting is this isn't the first time Ganta's told Tamaki to fuck off, but this time he seems legitimately upset. He stops being nice and sends Ganta off for testing. Rei enjoys it way too much. Disgusting. When she leaves, a forgery named Madoka brings Ganta a drink. He's not wearing a mask like the others. He takes a sip and the pain stops. We find out later that he was drinking his blood. The numbing of pain is part of his branch of sin. Ganta thanks him as he disappears. After his experience with Azami and Madoka, Ganta thinks maybe the rest of the forgeries can be reasoned with too. As they flee to take care of some intruders, Ganta tells them that the masks are controlling them and they don't have to listen to Tamaki. This plan backfires as a group of them try to force a mask onto Ganta to help him get through the experimentation, but they're quickly taken care of. Turns out the intruders were Shiro and Azami. Ganta calls them stupid for following him down here. They agree. As they release him, a few forgeries try to get the jump on them, but they're stopped by Makina, who also broke in somehow. She's been pretty busy as I was ignoring her. She quit her job as warden, cussing out Tamaki's management on the way out. Turns out the other guards felt the same way and joined in on her operation. She had a meeting with some Deadmen and even found time to change into this battle suit. I liked the design, but I don't like those. Makina invites Ganta to join too, and says she even has the support of Scarchain. Ganta accepts and she sends him to destroy the control device, as she stays behind to deal with the forgeries. Makina has unknowingly sent them straight into a trap. Azami recognizes them immediately. These aren't any old Deadmen. Turns out Rei has had her own side project cooking. Like Madoka, none of them are wearing masks. Except this guy, but you know, it's not one of these. They all rush Ganta and his girlfriends until they're suddenly stopped by Minatsuki. The others are here too. They've all forgiven Ganta and buy him some time. Everyone Ganta knows is fucking stupid. Amazing. It's here that Deadman Wonderland does what I can only describe as speedrunning character arcs, so I'm gonna try to rush through these too. Carnival Corpse time. Chaplin and Minatsuki face off against Uzume Sumeragi. For some reason her design scares the fuck out of me. Her branch of sin is Rainbow Butterfly, which locks you in a psychedelic trip and forces you to relive your worst memories. We already know Minatsuki's mum is a useless bitch, so nothing new there, but we find out that Chaplin's look is based on that of a woman her former lover cheated on her with, that she later murdered when her branch of sin awakened, adding a layer of tragedy to a previously goofy design. Minatsuki breaks the trance, but Chaplin remains lost in hers, seeing Minatsuki as a monstrous version of the woman she killed, until Minatsuki kicks her in the... Does Chaplin even have This breaks her out, and Sumeragi is very angry. The two just ignore her and combine their branches to form the Whip of Love. Why didn't the series do more of this? Together they beat the shit out of Sumeragi and make her ugly. Good. Meanwhile, Hitara is getting the shit kicked out of him by this child. His branch of sin is ultimate double pinwheel. It's not very clear what it does. As Hitara's getting creamed, he realizes he's not just fighting one child, but two. They're also 30 years old. They use their childlike appearances to exploit the sympathy of others after the quake, then killed them when they ran out of food. Throughout the series, Hitara claims to receive messages from his daughter through his earpiece. He's almost like a proto-Nagi since we're introduced to him first. When these kids try it on, they hear nothing. Hitara's daughter wanted to be an actress but was burned horrifically during the quake. Hitara watches this ad she filmed on repeat. It's not as creepy as it sounds, I promise. Despite projecting her anger and sadness at her father, Hitara just brushed it off. Even when she stabs him in the eye, whether by accident or on purpose, Hitara leaves his lighter with her when he leaves. She uses it to finish the job. The situation is kind of vague, but I'm personally of the opinion that Hitara allowed his daughter to commit suicide. Clearly she was miserable. Not content with just letting his daughter burn to death, Hitara burns these two as well. He says his final goodbye to his daughter as these two just fucking melt off panel. Now, clearly I rushed through both of those sequences, but I can't help but feel like they were damaged by Wonderland's fast pacing. Both Chaplin and Hitara are interesting characters with compelling stories, but the series does next to nothing with them. Sadly, this is the best they get. I feel like this could be a satisfying conclusion to their arcs if only we spent a bit more time with them. You know who we have spent a lot of time with though?
Senji Kiyomasa. I wonder if you will stand with me someday. Or against me.
Very quickly going to talk about the OVA. Volume 11 saw the release of the Red Knife Wielder OVA. The fact this thing even exists is a little puzzling, but more content for me. Set 2 years after the Tokyo earthquake, we meet Officer Senji maintaining order in the ruins. He's a massive dick, kept in check by his superior, Domon. Domon recruited Senji specifically, and acts almost as a father figure. He likes smoking and has a weird coin. We'll get to that coin later. Senji has a bit of a crush on this orphanage lady, Hinata, and is looked up to by this dumb kid. Both of them die horribly. There's another organization fighting for control of the ruins, Goreless Peace, and they want Senji to join them. When he tells them to piss off, they melt the orphans. Senji defies orders to go after them. There's 2 members of Goreless Peace worth mentioning. The chairman Keigo is the first we're introduced to. He's uppity and likes classical music. I hate him. Senji chases him down for revenge. We find out towards the end that he's a Deadman. His branch of sin is Wire. He's Spider-Man with a bondage kink. Senji nearly kills him but is stopped by Domon. This might be the best branch of sin has ever looked in the anime. When it's all over, the cops observe the construction of Deadman Wonderland as Senji tells them Hinata's tomatoes are finally ripe. That's fucking depressing that her produce outlived her. The other member I wanted to bring up is their leader, Akatsuki. In the manga, he challenges the Tokyo police to battle. Senji is up for it, but Domon chastises him for being too hot-headed, and go without him. They all die. Senji's brow tattoo are the initials of his fellow officers. Both Senji and Akatsuki would eventually be caught and sent to Deadman Wonderland. Akatsuki would become a forgery. The two quickly recognize each other and Akatsuki injects himself with his branch, clearing an area large enough for the two to battle. In Viz, his branch is called Wild Rage, but in other translations, including the wiki, it has a much cooler name. He injects himself with his scorpion tail to get all big and muscly. It's a little bit silly. Senji can't cut through him, not even with invisible black. As they fight, Akatsuki rants and raves about how fate is decided by choice and blah blah blah, yeah no shit mate, it's not that deep. But among this trite, he actually says something interesting. God rolls the dice, but we choose the winners. This line raises some questions about race forgeries. Did they become Deadmen by choice? Creating a forgery out of someone from Senji's past, specifically to counter him, would be in character for Tamaki, but these are Rei's pet project. It's probably nothing, but it did make me think for a moment. The series never elaborates, sadly. Something I like about this fight is that it's just Akatsuki fucking with Senji. He spends most of it luring into doing dumb shit. He even drops the ceiling on him. Senji's just not having a great time. I find it funny that Mr. Survival of the Fittest would start second guessing himself as soon as he's in a fight he can't win. But it doesn't matter. Before, he got stronger out of the fear and guilt of losing his fellow officers. He always fought for himself. But now he has someone to fight for. His son. Senji cuts himself open and with all of his spilled blood, he summons a blade that would make the Black Swordsman blush. All of the weight of his guilt poured into this Crowclaw to finish this piece of shit off. The series doesn't have a name for this version of Crowclaw, so I'm just gonna give it one now. Visible Black. This is stupid, Senji. Seriously, what the fuck is this? There's no way Senji has that much blood. He shouldn't even be able to stand, let alone live. How the fuck didn't this kill him? Even the OVA knows how stupid this is. In my opinion, this is where these two stopped caring about the rules of Branch of Sin. Anemia no longer exists. You can just do anything now. Ganta can fire as much blood as he wants now. Senji can make a blade the size of a truck. The rules no longer apply. At this point we're 2/3 into the series. You're either along for the ride or you aren't. And baby, I'm all in. The two dead men charge at each other one final time, and after a moment's silence, the victor is decided. Good job Senji, you fucking idiot. Meanwhile, Ganta and the girls are looking for the control device. They run into miserable Madoka. I'm not even gonna make a joke here, I'm just gonna let this panel speak for itself. When Madoka offers to take them to where the control device is being hidden, Ganta says he's going to destroy it, and Madoka starts to break down. Ganta is good, pure and honest, I guess. Everything that Madoka isn't. That's why he helped him, and now he has to kill him. Madoka is one of these guys. What a surprise. Madoka's branch of sin is Beast Heart Double Suicide. Despite its ridiculous name, Madoka's branch is the most busted branch of sin in the series. The first thing he does is paralyze Shiro and Azami before focusing his attention on Ganta. His branch controls the 5 senses. At least that's how Madoka explains it, because a branch like that shouldn't also do physical damage. He cuts Ganta and gives him the sensation of being hit by a giant truck. Painful, yes, but this also sent him flying into the wall. This guy isn't showing Ganta the feeling of being hit, he's summoning invisible trucks to run him over. Despite the pain, Ganta shoots at the control device and destroys it, but he's too late. Tamaki has transferred the functionality to his earpiece. All of this was just a big distraction. Ganta is so pissed off that he straight up punches Madoka. At least this time he punches someone that deserves it. Despite this, Madoka is glad to be in pain. Madoka believes that happiness can't grow unless someone else suffers, and calls this emotional conservation of mass. For fuck's sake, I swear all the villains in Wonderland are just Redditors. His father named him Madoka and gave him this stuffed lion, hoping he would grow strong and brave. He didn't. His dad died in the quake, and Madoka turned himself into a punching bag so others could derive joy from his suffering. Madoka crucifies Ganta and Shiro uses her new branch of sin to protect him. Turns out she's pretty fucking powerful. Of course she is. To prevent her from doing this again, Madoka traps her in an Iron Maiden. Excluding flashbacks, this is the first time Shiro feels pain in the whole series. It's really hard to watch. Ganta begs Madoka to stop. It's him he wants. Madoka concludes that hurting Shiro would bring Ganta the most pain. You idiot. Madoka continues to torture Shiro until she passes out from the pain. Paralyzed, all Ganta can do is watch. Meanwhile, the twins have brought Todo the preserved extracted organs of Deadmen. Haven't seen him in a while. Hagire's guards are now following orders from Mockingbird. Now he's about to get all of his lost branches of sin back. As he begins to feast, he says we're about to lose Shiro. When she starts to feel pain again, Mother Goose won't be able to contain her. Ganta fights Madoka's branch enough to make it to Shiro's lifeless body as he remembers the first time they met. Sick of watching animals be experimented on and tortured, a young Ganta wanders outside and sees her in the park. She's self-conscious about her condition, but Ganta thinks she's beautiful. Way prettier than his collection of dragonfly wings. Little Casanova we have here. He draws his log on her hand and the two quickly become best friends. And now it looks like he's lost her. Meanwhile, in Shiro's head, she's met with the Wretched Egg. She's reached too deep this time. Power and pain belong to Aceman. Any more and it will kill her. But Shiro doesn't care. If she has to feel pain, use this power and die for Ganta, she will. Madoka is about to finish off Ganta when he starts glowing. He's gonna do his best gun. Before Madoka can stop him, Shiro cuts off his arm and gets him a clear shot. Ganta fires and the two of them obliterate their torturer. Azami, who's just now regaining strength, watches as they finish him off. Poor Azami woke up just in time to get blue-balled. Despite everything, all they need is each other. Ganta and Shiro confess their feelings for one another, and man, despite all my complaining, that's fucking beautiful. I love them too. Azami relays everything to Makina. Tamaki has the control device. Fortunately, she has a plan to corner him. If all goes well, this will be the end of Wonderland. After seeing Shiro in pain, Ganta drops the hero act. He's not fighting for revenge or to save everyone anymore. Now he fights for Shiro. He'll never let her suffer like that again. Ganta doesn't realize it yet, but this is the end of Shiro as we know her. He leaves Shiro in Azami's care and heads outside. Not sure where he's going. Azami didn't have the time to relay that info to him. I guess he just overheard. Or he felt like going for a walk. I don't know. Todo finishes up his feast and is ready to get going too. The air smells like Wretched Egg. The real fun is about to begin. When Ganta is gone, Shiro springs back to life, as if she could die. She starts acting weird and it's freaking Azami out. Despite never having seen this before, she immediately recognizes something is very wrong. This isn't Shiro. After that failure, Tamaki is meeting up with Rei, who's having a little cry. Her Deadmen suck balls. If the Forgeries can't handle regular Deadmen, how will they be able to kill Wretched Egg? Tamaki is running out of patience and strangles her. I love that Tamaki gets more emotionally unstable as the series progresses. After all this failure, his cheery facade is finally cracking. Despite this, he's still got one final weapon. What the hell is this thing? I don't think the series ever gives it a name, so I'm just gonna call it the Amalgamate. The Amalgamate seems to be Tamaki's final contingency plan to defeat Wretched Egg, a swirling soup of forgeries and their branches to create an abomination of living toxic blood. The way things are going, it looks like this thing is going to be the final boss. Right? Tamaki leaves her to look after it as he heads back to his office. Just in time too, because Makina is about to enact her plan. Everyone's ready, except Tamaki, who freaks out when shit starts exploding around him. Bonbu's planted bombs everywhere. When did he have the time? Tamaki, terrified, is running right into Makina's hands. Or so she thinks. Tamaki summons his Forgeries, who attack en masse, but are no match for Makina and Ko's superior firepower. They even have a Necromacro. Among the chaos, Yo is trying to get Kincho out of there, but he runs to find Azami in a panic. Azami is still figuring out what's wrong with Shiro when Todo arrives to compliment her on her deduction skills. Wretched Egg demands to know where Ganta is headed, but Azami refuses to give up where he's going, not until she gives Shiro back. The Deadmen are being evacuated as G-Wad collapses around them. Meanwhile, Rei pings an intruder heading towards her lab and awakens the Amalgamate. Her enthusiasm evaporates when she realizes who's come to see her. With Makina distracted by Tamaki's forgery army, he thinks he has enough time to leave. All this time, Ganta has been following the same route as Tamaki. With everywhere else blocked off by the explosions and debris, there's only one way he can go. He enters Rei's lab and is greeted by a familiar scene. He recognizes what this means immediately. The Red Man is here. Despite all the commotion, Tamaki has finally made it to his office and calls an escape chopper. All he needs is to take Wretched Egg's daughter and get the fuck out of there. Sadly for him, he's been cornered. Makina knew this was the only place he could go. Finally, the worst criminal in Wonderland can be brought to justice. Just for fun, Makina punches him so hard it sends him flying. The crowd goes wild. Tamaki is fine with this actually. He hasn't truly lost yet. After all, he's player 1. It's here we learn a bit about Tamaki's past, and it is pathetic. Before the earthquake, Tamaki was this neat loser. He locked himself in his room playing his fucking computer games. Just like you! Then comes the quake, destroying his home, crushing his mum, not that he cares, but most importantly killing his PC. This sent Tamaki spiraling. I like this bit where the guy in charge of the graves reasons that Tamaki didn't show up because he was so distraught over the death of his mother. Little does he know. As news reports start rolling in, the bizarre specifics of the Tokyo earthquake puzzle experts. How could a tremor so powerful originate from only a few hundred meters deep? This question awakened something in Tamaki, and he would correctly deduce that the quake was man-made. The fact that the National Disease Prevention Center was ground zero is no coincidence. Something inside caused it, and now Tamaki gets to be the hero. All of his criminal acts so far were to bring down that monster, the Wretched Egg, and now Makina stands in his way. Who's the real villain? Still you, Tamaki. Even Echo tells her not to listen to this gibberish. Anyway, looks like it's time to leave. Tamaki's chopper is here to pick him up. But actually no, that's Makina's. The chopper is destroyed when a familiar branch of sin opens a hole in the building. Out of the wreckage jumps Todo. And oh boy, does he have some news for us.
You swish in here with your lineup. As though I'm not chin deep in the dregs of your incompetence as it is, you imbecile. Wonderland isn't your personal abattoir. Merely a birdcage, one that I created myself.
Oh, so sorry. You're applying me with wisdom again, aren't you? Ah, but the show must go on. Yes?
As if the humiliation so far wasn't enough, Todo, jovial as ever, tells Tamaki that he's taking his Deadman samples. Makina has other plans, but he doesn't mind. He just summons Wretched Egg to win them back. I like that Wretched Egg here is just Shiro in a blankie. Finally, this is the moment Tamaki's been waiting for. If he can kill Wretched Egg now, everything will be worth it. He commands his remaining forgeries to attack. Their toxic branches were created based on Wretched Egg's own data, specifically to destroy her, and now it's time for the moment of truth. Can he do it? Nah, it just itches a little. She shreds Tamaki's army like paper. Makina is next and tells her troops to open fire, but they don't fare any better. Beneath her cloak, Makina notices the Wretched Egg is carrying this head with her. Oh god. She attacks with the Worm-Eater blade, but it similarly has no effect. In the span of 8 pages, Tamaki has just watched all of his plans to defeat Wretched Egg fall apart in front of him. But how? The Forgeries and Worm-Eater were created specifically to counter Wretched Egg. They conducted so many experiments. That was Hagire's own data. They should be killing it. Todo steps forward and tells him the data is fake. But what does he know? He's just another prisoner. But Todo continues. He knew someone like Tamaki would go snooping when he was gone. He prepared plenty of BS research in case someone hacked his computer. Wait, he shouldn't have access to the director's property? Well, let's just say there's a reason I spent most of part 1 reluctant to call this guy Todo. Every time he's shown up so far he's just raised more questions than answers. But now we finally have it. Why are the twins suddenly following his orders? Why does he have such reverence for the Wretched Egg? Why does he refer to his own body in third person as if it doesn't belong to him? Why does he have such extensive knowledge on the inner workings of Wonderland and Tamaki's plans? The answer is simple. That's not Todo. That's Hagire. Tamaki's game is over. He lost. He wasn't even player 1. Having dedicated his life to the cause of killing Wretched Egg, only to have the rug pulled out from under him as just another toy of its creator. It's no surprise what he does next.
Game over.
Mr. Tamaki! Mr. Tamaki!
Rest in peace, Tamaki. You thought you ran the circus, but you were just another clown. Side note, but ever since I read this with my sister, we've been calling this kind of suicide pulling a Tamaki. Not super important, just felt like sharing. After all that, Wretched Egg's getting bored. If she doesn't see a woodpecker in 5 minutes, she's going to bed. Right on cue, Ganta arrives. Finally face to face with the one who sent him here, he explodes and opens fire. Makina punches her out of the way with Necro and tells Ganta to run, but he can't let him slip away again. Not after what the Red Man did to his friends. Speaking of which, when Ganta turns back to face Wretched Egg, he gets a good look at what she's carrying. Ganta is so overwhelmed at the sight that he can't even attack. Makina creates a diversion by exploding Necro's fuel tank as everyone attempts to escape. All except Ganta. He's still trying to figure things out. If that's Azami, where's Shiro? The Wretched Egg just smiles and tells him, Shiro is dead. He's done it again. The Red Man has taken everything from him. In his anger, he fires the Ganbare Gun at Wretched Egg. Hagire just scoffs. No way can Ganta Gun compare to the original sin. He changes his tone when Ganta's bullet shatters Wretched Egg's defenses, but she manages to dodge what probably would have been a direct hit. The bullet knocks off her mask, and Ganta finally learns the awful truth. The monster that killed everyone he knew, gave him his power, and sent him to Wonderland was his best friend. Shiro was the Red Man. This midsection of the series is absolutely packed to bursting. It's actually pretty exhausting to read. It's all climax and revelations with very little time to breathe. The Deadmen are frustratingly stubborn towards the beginning and then seemingly turn on a dime. That being said, it's nice to start finally getting some answers. The reveal that the Wretched Egg brought Ganta back to the place they met, coupled with her giving him his power in Chapter 1, is a sick and twisted take on the Chosen One. A trope I usually hate, and the fact it's grounded in Ganta and Shiro's relationship saves it from becoming tedious. The Hagire reveal completely caught me off guard the first time I read it, and Ganta finally catching up with the reader is just tragic. I just can't help but feel like they could have spaced this out a bit better. With the director Tamaki dead and its dark secrets exposed, Deadman Wonderland is forced to shut down. The site is condemned by the government, the website is offline, the staff are giving out refunds. All the prisoners inside, Kozuji and all, are transferred to a regular facility. There will never be another crazy performance, dog race, or carnival corpse. Thank God. Alright, we have a lot of catching up to do on this character, so...
Pay attention, you jackholes!
Hagire is the founder and former director of Deadman Wonderland, and creator of the Wretched Egg. Previously a doctor of some kind at the National Disease Prevention Center, probably a surgeon. His scalpel necklace and raccoon eyes suggest a certain level of obsession with his line of work and the human body. Limited by the confines of human rights, he would quickly grow bored of the same old experiments. His obsession would be rejuvenated when Shiro's body reacted positively to nanomachines. I'll save the specifics for later, but these experiments would lead to the creation of Branch of Sin. If you're unfamiliar with the manga, then you're not going to recognize the man that I'm putting up on screen now. But as we've recently learned, Hagire has many faces. After the Tokyo earthquake, Hagire would come across the twins. Despite both of them being in vegetative states, the two were Branch of Sin carriers. Hagire, knowing Branch of Sin better than anyone, would take them under his wing. Chan and En are both users of the branch Hollow Swallow, which allows them to manipulate technology in the human brain. Hagire would use this branch to override the brains of his victims. What I've been showing you so far is his original body, in which he would found Deadman Wonderland with Tamaki. His second, the one I called Grandpa in Part 1, was an old Carnival Corpse champion. Despite this being how we're originally introduced to Hagire, this body is the most mysterious. We know nothing about who this guy was before he was taken over, other than he was strong enough to win Carnival Corpse. In order to keep up with Wretched Egg, he would augment his new bodies to boost their combat capability and the potency of their branches of sin, the stress of which causes them to age rapidly, leading to the shriveled up grandpa we see in Chapter 11. His third and current body is that of Toto, the latest champion of Carnival Corpse. I can only imagine that Hagire must have been ecstatic to get a hold of Mockingbird, as his branch of sin can potentially give him access to all others. So why does he do all this? What's the point of killing and dying with Shiro? Well, rebuilding Tokyo isn't as important as this man's boner. No, I was dead serious. The series never says it outright, but look at his face as he conducts his experiments. So much starts clicking with this in mind, even Shiro's weird character design. Deadman Wonderland is just $1 billion sex dungeon for this seedy old doctor to fulfill his S&M fantasy of being obliterated by a teenage girl. Speaking of boners, I want to bring up the blog Deadman Wonderland Confessions on Tumblr, because there's a lot of weird thirst for this old pedo. Scrolling through his tag, you'll find such gems as, "I want Hagire to ruin my life." I can't help but wonder how long Hagire has fantasized about Senji. I have this headcanon that when Hagire took Toto's body, that he took a bunch of nude pictures of him because he's obsessed with his body. Hashtag I need help. And original Hagire is daddy level hot. I agree. After Wonderland finally went under, Makina spills all the goings-on inside to the authorities. The Deadmen all get new trials, including Ganta. After Tamaki's tampering of evidence and crazed prisoners and staff forcing his hand, the court rules in his favour. Ganbare Igarashi is innocent. I like that this courtroom scene implies that Wonderland was so horrible that any attempt at escape is automatically pardoned. Finally, he can forget all of the awful shit that happened inside. But how can he? It's not like he gets a hard reset to how things were. Everyone he knew is still dead. This panel of Ganta staring at his phone with no one to call is especially somber, not to mention all of the trauma inside. Especially with her. Shiro was the only thing keeping him going the whole time, but if she was Wretched Egg, then none of it was real. The rest of the Deadmen aren't faring much better. Senji can't get a job, Yo is visiting Minatsuki in regular prison, Chaplin wants to be put in the female ward, and Oh my god. Was my theory correct? Hitara can finally visit his daughter's grave. I'm not sure what he's pouring onto her tombstone. Is that water or lighter fluid? Either way, what the fuck, man? It's all very sad. Back in Wonderland, a team of investigators is being sent to check out the empty building, even going as far as to live stream their findings. As they get inside, they find out the facility isn't as empty as they thought. It seems like a few dead men refuse to leave. Hagire doesn't take kindly to the intruders and kills them all on camera. Seemingly just for fun, he gets Wretched Egg to do a trick for the stream, and causes an earthquake. Machina is showing the footage to authorities. The message is clear. This is what caused the earthquake that sunk Tokyo 10 years ago. If these two are left to their own devices, it could happen again, or worse. Fortunately, she's been cooking up a plan, and with a little convincing, the responsibility of Wonderland is transferred to her. 2 months later, Ganta still isn't doing too hot. He's been in foster care since he was found innocent. His time behind bars really fucked him up. Just like in chapter 22, he won't even eat. But today, he has a visitor. And who better to get him out of this funk than Karako? Did you miss her? Bringing her back for this moment is incredibly fitting. At this point, they've both been through the same thing. It turns out she's been working with Machina. She's been meeting up with the Deadmen to recruit them for an operation. Ganta doesn't want to go, he just wants to forget. He can't face Shiro again. Karako of all people should know how that feels. But despite Ganta snapping at her, she stays understanding. She wanted to look the other way and pretend there was nothing wrong with Nagi, but because she loved him, she couldn't. Kinda like what I've been doing with these videos. Besides, Nagi wasn't a complete monster. He did everything he did because he was in pain. Understandably, Ganta is reluctant to apply this to Shiro. After all, I'm pretty sure what she did was way worse. Karako leaves Ganta to think about it as it starts to rain. I bet it's warm. With Karako gone, Ganta starts to break down. He can never forget. Whether he likes it or not, that time spent with Shiro will always be part of him. Back in Wonderland, Hagire has everything he could want in its empty halls. Now that the government has given up sending people in, he has the entire fairground to himself and Shiro. Hundreds of kitchens and vending machines full of rotting prison food, and a freezer full of carnival corpse leftovers for him to steal branches from. Actually, speaking of, when Nagi's wife died, Tamaki preserved their unborn child. Did he eat that too? Despite everything, there's still one thing he can't have. Shiro. Despite Wretched Egg taking over, Mother Goose is still hindering her full power, and no branch can give him access to the system. The next day, the Deadmen are being briefed by Machina and Karako. They're going back to Wonderland. In one way or another, Branch of Sin is the cause of all of their suffering, and now it's up to them to make sure nothing like Tokyo can happen again. The ex-cons are going back to seal Wretched Egg for good, as Hagire attempts to set her free. With the stage set, it's time to go back to Wonderland. Now, I was a little rough on the last arc, and there's a couple of things I want to say at the end of this video, so I'll just give my evaluation early. I think the final arc of Deadman Wonderland is fantastic, but it still has some issues. We'll get there. On the day of the op, Ganta takes one last look at this old photo, a reminder of the life he can never return to. He's made up his mind. He arrives late to the dock where Machina has blackmailed Tamaki's old mate Aohi into supplying them with a submarine. This poor guy has flushed his military career down the toilet. Before too long they arrive. During the trip, Machina gave everyone a sheet of paper to write down a will or some last words, in case some of them don't make it out of this. Ganta just tore his up. He didn't come to die, he came to kill. But when a pale white hand helped him out of the sub, Ganta loses his nerve. Everyone outside is shocked to see Shiro, but Ganta just cries. Why did she have to be Wretched Egg? Shiro immediately attacks by throwing a fucking ship at them. What was that doing there? Everyone is shocked at Wretched Egg's identity, even though they all saw pictures of her at the briefing. whatever. She explains that Shiro is alive, but is no longer the dominant persona. Makina makes all the psychologists watching roll their eyes as Ganta prepares to put down Wretched Egg for good, but is stopped by Koriko. Killing her means killing Shiro too, but Ganta already knows, and that's why it's his responsibility. He rapid fires Ganta guns at Wretched Egg, who makes no effort to defend herself. She just smiles. Shiro falls to the ground as Ganta breaks down over what he's just done. When Senji comes to comfort his son, he notices her wounds have already healed. Of course it was never going to be that easy. Shiro wakes up and tells Ganta to try harder before she leaves. In order to weaken Wretched Egg, Mother Goose needs to be sealing her power completely. To figure out the inner workings of the system, Makina needs a chorus block, a piece of the Mother Goose system that she can research. The Deadmen divide into two teams and venture back into the building looking for a chorus block. Ganta and Senji, along with this new character Yosuga, are out to go get one. She is confident in her lack of stamina, or some shit, I guess. I'll talk more about her later on, but for now, Yosuga was an old friend of Todo before he disappeared and was wiped by Hagire. Yosuga acts as kind of a mirror to Ganta. She even points this out. Both have watched someone they care about turn into something horrible. Unlike Ganta, Yosuga is more optimistic. Todo is in there somewhere, and so is Shiro. To kill Hagire and Wretched Egg would be to throw away any chance at saving them. This is enough to make Ganta start to reconsider. In Hagire's quarters, Shiro is still recovering from her injuries. Hagire tries to do something icky, but she's quick to interrupt his advances. She doesn't need any special treatment, it was only his Ganta gun, not that other thing he does. This is news to Hagire, who runs off to test Ganta's branch. Mockingbird lets him copy the regular Ganta gun just fine, but he can't pull off the Ganbare Gun. It only works when Ganta does it. But that's fine. If Ganta has the only branch he can't copy, then that means he's the key to Mother Goose. Of course he is. And if Hagire can't take Ganta's new branch, then he can just take his body. As Senji tries to dismantle the chorus block, Ganta is reminiscing about his 5th birthday with Shiro. His mother, Sorae, made him this shitty hat which rips as soon as he puts it on. She just tells him it's a neck warmer. Nice save. Shiro wants one too, but can't remember her birthday. Sorae pauses for a moment, before telling Shiro that she'll make one up for her. The fact that Sorae pauses here is important, and makes sense when we learn more about her and Shiro. Ganta thinks it's weird how little he knows about her friend despite all the time he spent with her. Lucky for us, the girls found Sorae's diary hidden in the recurring broken grand piano. Now we can find out all of her secrets. By the way, Senji and Ganta are standing in a flooded room and will have wet shoes and socks for the rest of the arc. Ganta is starting to have second thoughts about killing Shiro. He doesn't know what's going on with her or how long she's been the Wretched Egg. The ambiguity is killing him. Senji pulls out Domon's coin. A long time ago, he told him that people keep changing. You can never truly know someone. This goes hand in hand with Sorae's answer to Ganta all those years ago. She tells him that even if he doesn't know Shiro that well yet, he can start getting to know her right now. The question the series is positioning us to ask is obvious. What turned Shiro into a monster? Ganta is worried that while he's looking for answers, he might lose someone else. Senji flips the coin. If he's so afraid and everything is so uncertain, why not leave it to chance? Heads, no one dies. Ganta tells him it's not funny, but Senji tells him to open his palm, and it's heads. Looks like no one's dying today. Obviously Senji isn't this dumb. There's some funny business going on with that coin. He just did it to ease Ganta's mind, and it seems to have worked. Thanks, Dad. Yosuga is outside keeping guard, where she's found by Hagire, who recognizes her as Todo's sister. The fact that Hagire could pick up on this, coupled with him clapping like Todo apparently used to, means Yosuga was right. Todo is still in there somewhere. Before she can pry him for answers, he pins Yosuga down and says hello to Ganta. Hagire gives him the chance to come quietly. He can't afford to damage Ganta's body. He needs him in one piece for the transfer. But Ganta tells him to fuck off. Shame. Hagire damages Ganta's body as Senji jumps in to save him, but is quickly defeated by Mockingbird. Hagire has every branch of sin now, after all. Crowclaw alone can't keep up. Before he can take Senji's other eye, Ganta gives himself up. Hagire is so pleased, he makes this face. Back in the sub, the girls have brought back a chorus block, as well as Sorae's diary. They start getting some answers. Mother Goose is a biocomputer, yes, but one made out of Shiro's own flesh and blood. I guess the best way to create a system built specifically to contain her would be to build it out of her. The fact that such a thing even exists is horrific. Minatsuki has the right idea here. Ganta is being held in the piano room as Hagire prepares for the transfer. The twins are a little sad to see Toto go. He had such a pretty face. As Ganta fiddles with his handcuffs, Wretched Egg walks in. Ganta takes aim, but this isn't the same as when they met on the dock. He quickly recognizes her as Shiro. She looks miserable, like the weight of her actions as Wretched Egg has finally caught up with her. Ganta puts down the Ganbare Gun and asks Shiro how much she remembers. Shiro only has faint memories of her time as Wretched Egg, but she knows what she's done, how much pain she's caused. Seeing Shiro so full of regret for the deaths caused by Wretched Egg, including Ganta's class and her own friend Azami, Ganta attempts to comfort her but is quickly rejected. She tells him it's okay for Ganta to hate her. She hates herself too. Shiro runs off and Ganta is left alone again. How is he supposed to kill Shiro now? Hagire appears and tells him he can show him more. Back at the chorus block, Yosuga checks on Senji, who's just laying there moping. Stop being such a pansy. He tells Yosuga to go back. He needs a moment to rest. Senji's a fucking liar. As soon as she's gone, Senji gets up to go find Ganta. He's not about to let himself be saved by a child. Hagire puts Ganta in a tube as he prepares for the transfer. He can give Ganta all of his memories of Shiro as he overwrites his mind. You already know all of this, but now Ganta does too. He thinks it's fucked, but it's too late for him to change his mind now. It's hollow swallow time. It's worth noting that during this flashback sequence, Makina is reading Sorae's diary, so all of this information is being relayed to the Deadmen back at base too. Now, one of my main complaints about this arc is its flashback city. It seems like we can't go 10 pages without putting the main story on hold to explore the memories of these characters, but I'm more forgiving of this sequence in particular. The events being recounted here are what set the entire series in motion. The fact that Ganta's mind is being wiped as he experiences them adds a sense of tension, which would otherwise be lacking. I will say it's kind of weird that we have future Ganta's ghost watching it all as an observer, but I know it's supposed to be more metaphorical. It's time to go back to Tokyo. The flashback opens in Hagire's point of view, as he and Sorae give Shiro an injection, the side effects of which cause her constant pain. Sorae wants to stop testing on Shiro, but Hagire isn't listening. He's too busy playing with this decomposing hand. He deflects Sorae's concerns by reminding her that she chose Shiro as a test subject. Don't worry, we'll get there. An especially horrifying sequence is when Ganta and Shiro are playing hide and seek. Ganta starts counting as Shiro finds a place to hide. She runs past Hagire and stops in this corner. As she catches her breath, her arm falls off. Ganta finishes counting as Shiro tries to put it back on, crying not yet as she tries to fix it. Shiro is being constantly injected with deadly diseases. The nameless worm was originally developed as a way to boost immune functions. Shiro's inoculations are forcing it to grow stronger. Hagire wants to see how far he can take it. Sorae's protesting is quickly shut down as they inject Shiro with some new viruses. Her reaction to this one is particularly strong. All Ghost Ganta can do is watch. In a moment of intense pain and desperation, Shiro calls out to her hero, Aceman. And Aceman comes. The Wretched Egg is born. This memory is so distressing to Ganta that Hagire has to stop the transfer. He tells Ganta it's not unusual for children to create separate personalities in response to trauma. This is actually true in real life. Again, I don't know how accurate Wonderland's portrayal of the condition is. I assume it's a very cartoon sci-fi exaggerated version, but points for accuracy on this, I guess. Ganta begs Hagire to stop, but now he's fulfilled his end of the deal. He can get back to the download. Next we see Shiro, who's being dragged off to the lab again. She tells Ganta that the needles don't hurt anymore. Thanks to Wretched Egg, Shiro has stopped feeling pain. In the lab, Shiro is inoculated again. This time the nameless worm multiplies faster than it ever has before. From the prick left by the injection, a tendril of blood emerges and destroys some equipment. Hagire has just created Branch of Sin, and now he's excited. Maybe a little too excited. Yeah, I brought up the prevailing theory of Hagire creating Wonderland for kink reasons earlier, but this panel combined with the scene after she attacks Ganta on the dock seals the deal in the eyes of the fans. Hagire probably molested Shiro. We're thankfully never shown the act. It's all implied, but it sadly wouldn't be the worst thing he's done to her. Hagire's experiments continue as Wretched Egg grows more powerful. All Sorae can do is watch and vent her guilt into her diary. Before long, Shiro gains a new ability: regeneration. If Shiro can just heal from any wound, nothing is off the table. Hagire can do whatever he wants now. Ecstatic, he announces he wants to be like her. When he's finished, Ganta and Shiro meet up in the park for a few rounds of Aceman. Ganta comments how strong Shiro has gotten now. He's about to return a hit when Shiro, in self-defense, knocks Ganta to the ground. Sorae stops the fight as Shiro complains that Ganta is too weak. He's just a normal kid after all. As she's about to be dragged off and probably grounded, Ganta gets back up ready for more, but Sorae takes him away. Also, it seems as if Shiro is being forced to relive these memories too. Okay. I could believe the diary thing, but this is a bit of a stretch. Sorae starts saving Shiro's extracted tissue in case she stops regenerating, parts she will eventually use to build Mother Goose. Not long after this, she would write the Song of the Woodpecker. Something worth noting is Shiro always claims that this song is unfinished. In chapter 11, she asks Hagire if there's more. He simply tells her that that's all there is. You can probably read the subtext here. Back in the present, the Deadmen decide Ganta and Senji are taking too long and go off to pick him up. Echo gives a worried Makina a little head scratch. No. The last memory Hagire shares is another in the lab. He wants to test Shiro's new power on a living target and brings in a sheep. Instead of killing it immediately, she breaks out of her restraints and goes on a killing spree. Ganta, who was wandering the halls, enters to see Shiro surrounded by dismembered corpses. She asks Ganta how the rest of the song goes before he runs away terrified. Worth noting is the sheep Shiro was supposed to kill is the only survivor of the attack. The wounded are carried away by paramedics as Hagire covers it up as a chemical explosion to prevent investigators entering. Sorae hurries Ganta into a car to be taken to his father. Oh boy, Ganta's dad. How must he feel about the last 47 chapters? Sorae tells him she needs to stay and look after Shiro. Ganta, dead-eyed, just pauses and asks, "Who's Shiro?" He's already repressing his memories of her. This is why he didn't recognize her in the early chapters. This event was so traumatic that he forced himself to wipe it all. Now, Hagire has shown him everything. All that's left to do is to take what's his and say goodbye to Ganta. You can probably tell by my music choice here that it didn't work. When Hagire wakes up, he's still in Todo's body, so what the hell went wrong? Follow-up question, who cut the hollow swallow spaghetti? Well, who do you think? Senji is here to pick up his son, and he is pissed. Hagire sticks the twins on him. With two guns pointed at him, he just punches them away. He's still Ganta. The transfer failed. Senji is stopped by Hagire, who tries to overpower him with his branches, and Senji kicks him in the dick. He smugly dodges a near-fatal crow claw, which ends up freeing Ganta. Senji tells him to run and kicks him away. He's not letting him steal the show this time. Hagire yells at Chanen to capture Ganta, but Senji blocks his exit behind him. He's in for it now. Senji and Hagire crow claw clash briefly before his blade is broken by the twins. Turns out their branch allows them to move in perfect unison. Sure, why not? They overpower Senji briefly until he uses their predictable movements to his advantage. Hagire tries to run, but Senji quickly catches up to him. Hagire can't afford to waste any time and summons a pair of bloody wings. Whose branch is this? I bet it's fucking Albatross or some shit. He pins Senji down with his feathers and asks him why sacrifice himself for Ganta, but all Senji can do is tell him how proud he is of his son. Hagire covers him in feather blades, but Branch of Sin comes from blood, you idiot. Bleeding just makes him stronger. In fact, he could probably kill Hagire right now, or he could if the twins hadn't have gotten in the way. We're finally here, the funniest exchange of dialogue in the manga. Hagire sacrifices the twins to get a good blow on Senji. They tell Hagire that they loved him. Hagire returns, "But I never loved you." With their dying breaths, Chan and En smile and say, "We know." Now, I know what you're probably thinking. That's not funny, that's really sad. Shut up. The attack causes Senji to lose his arm. Before he can finish the job, he's shot by a Ganta gun. He's done running. He even gave his branch the cool Aceman inspired name he promised way back. Hagire returns with his own bullets, but Ganta shoots them all down. He's about to Ganbare Gun him before the red diamond causes him pain, giving Hagire an opening, eventually knocking him outside. Before he can drop Ganta off the side of the building, he's saved by Senji, who takes him to the roof. When did he have time to do this? Ow. Hagire and Senji fight on the roof as Ganta catches his breath. But for fuck's sake, Senji, are you even trying to hit him? Turns out, no, he was aiming for the tower behind him. But that's fine, nothing Mockingbird can't handle. But there's something oddly familiar about this move, isn't there? Now, I'll admit I've been a little hyperbolic in this review. I don't actually piss myself when Wretched Egg smiles at Ganta. But this one is true, I would say this in court. Every time I read Deadman Wonderland and I get to this panel, I stand up and do a lap around my room. It's that hype. Ganta Ganbare guns Hagire in the chest and sends him flying into Senji's crow claw. Owie. The building collapses onto Hagire as father and son emerge victorious. Even Minatsuki is impressed. I can only hope my commentary did that scene justice. Somehow he survived all of that punishment. His limp body is found by Yosuga, who tells him Todo isn't allowed to die yet. She takes him back inside with some stolen medical supplies from the sub. Hagire just goes with it. He needs all the help he can get right now. Now I can finally talk about the real Mockingbird. Yosuga spent her early days in G-Ward being kicked around by other inmates. She wouldn't use her branch of sin. Some prisoners doubted if she was even a dead man. Todo, wandering the halls, witnesses this but bears it no mind. He doesn't give a shit about anything. So why doesn't Yosuga use her branch like a normal dead man? Before these dicks can do anything to her, Yosuga admits she wants to die. She doesn't really have anything outside of Wonderland. Like many others, she lost everything in Tokyo, and has all but mentally checked out. She has no reason to live. Todo overhears this and kills the dead man bothering her, recognizing her as his big sister. Yosuga finds out from Tamaki that Todo's sister died in the quake, so this can't be true. Todo bursts into Yosuga's cell after winning in Carnival Corpse and feeds her a candy. Yosuga is a little annoyed and points out why she can't be Todo's sister. How can she be his big sister when Todo is older than her? He just brushes this off and spoils the book she's reading. What a dick. We're presented with a question. Is Todo another Nagi case, or is he just trying to give Yosuga something to live for? Tamaki even says that Todo fights like he wants to die. Clearly these two have some things in common. One day, Todo uses his winnings to buy Yosuga a present. A gun. Now they can die anytime they want. They seem to have a bit of an agreement. They're not allowed to die unless it's by each other's hands. Todo gives her the gun and... it's plastic. It's not real. The two share a good laugh at Todo's terrible joke. In a weird way, it's kinda cute, I have to admit. Of course, we already know what happens to Todo from here. He would keep winning Carnival Corps. He would absorb more branches, and would eventually emerge as champion. Feared and respected by the denizens of G-Ward as the ultimate Deadman, disappearing after receiving his prize of being erased by Hagire. But don't worry, Todo's protests of "I want to live" really pissed him off. In the sub, Senji is being patched up by Karako as Ganta rests in the sickbay, and we get some bad news from Makina. The red diamond in his chest has grown cancerous. The nameless worm is eating away at his muscles and nerves. We've seen him react painfully to using the Ganbare Gun as early as chapter 23, and now we know why. His branch of sin is killing him. Worse still, because Ganta's branch is unique, as it was given to him personally by Wretched Egg, there's nothing they can do. He wakes up the next day. Everyone's happy to see him doing alright, especially Senji. He's taking the whole amputation thing pretty well, actually. He asks Ganta about his chest, and he says he can't feel it anymore. This isn't exactly good news. Ganta is dying and he doesn't even know it. But he's got something to share with everyone. After his meeting with Hagire, he knows how to unlock Mother Goose. His branch is the key. As Ganta shares this information, Hagire is preparing Mockingbird for one last ride. As he performs surgery, he raves about how he's going to live for her. The her he's referring to is obviously Shiro, but I also like to think he's saying it out loud so Yosuke doesn't puss out. Both Wretched Egg and Shiro have been waiting a long time for this moment. When the Deadmen arrive, Ganta sticks his hand into the device. This is what Shiro chose him for. Ganta fires, and his branch of sin is a match. Mother Goose is unlocked. All that's left to do is seal Wretched Egg for good. Before he can finish the job, he's interrupted by an explosion. Hagire has arrived. He looks awful. In fact, Todo's body is starting to look a lot like Grandpa's. The Deadmen attack, but their efforts are blocked by Yosuke. She still wants to save Todo. Hagire thanks Ganta for doing the hard part for him and clears a path so he can unleash Shiro's true power, and free humanity's madness in a broken earth of her creation. I'm paraphrasing here. I'm gonna be honest, this is where Viz really drops the ball with the translation. I'd go as far as to call it absurd. The Deadmen aren't having it. They already saw a glimpse of that future in the misery of Tokyo, and all attack. Hagire fires back. He alone couldn't create a world so cruel. It was normal people like them letting their demons run free. During this sequence, Hagire is attacking all of the Deadmen with their own branches of sin. With everyone knocked out, it's time to free Wretched Egg, but it turns out he missed one. Ganta stops his hand and tells him he'll never hurt Shiro again. Hagire kicks him away and threatens to cut off his head like he did to Azami. Wait, Hagire killed Azami? Shiro said she did it as Wretched Egg. I guess she did say she only has faint memories of it. But that's not all. He has another little secret for him. He bends down to meet Ganta's ear and says, "Shiro was your replacement." Ganta has Hagire's memories. He knows this is true. All of Shiro's pain was meant for him. Paralyzed in a mix of confusion and guilt, Hagire is about to finish him off, but he's stopped by the Deadmen. He did a bad job at killing them. They're blocked by Yosuke. Hagire vomits all over them. He continues fighting his way to Mother Goose, but despite his best efforts, they just won't fucking die. Why, they're just like him. Fucking Deadmen. Yosuke tries one more time to block their attacks, but she's stopped by Yo. He stole Makina's Worm Eater. Yo is the real hero here. With Hagire's only line of defense down, the Deadmen are free to absolutely brutalize the old man. He's lacerated, crushed, stabbed, and burned, but still he fights. Yosuke tells him enough and begs him to give back Todo. Without a second thought, Hagire pierces Yosuke's skull, killing her. We didn't know her very long, but it still stings to see her go out like this, dying with absolute faith that she could bring back her old friend. Hagire continues to drag Todo's broken body to Mother Goose, but is stopped by Ganta. While everyone else was fighting, he's had some time to think. If he was Shiro's replacement, it's up to him to make things right. Ganta Ganbare guns Hagire point blank in the head, killing him. Notice my wording. He killed Hagire. Yosuga was right. Todo is still in there. He sees Yosuga's gun and remembers his sister, before finally passing. Poor old Todo. On the other hand, with Hagire gone, there's only one thing to do. It's time to put an end to this nightmare and seal Wretched Egg. There's nothing left to stop that now. Except maybe... her. Shiro takes the device and crushes it in her hand. The seal is broken. Wretched Egg is free. Shiro lays waste to Wonderland as everyone below gets the fuck out of there. The mission failed. All they can do now is run. Something I like is that among all the chaos, Minatsuki gets stabbed in the leg in the same place she stabbed Ganta way back. Everyone hurries to get aboard the sub, all except Ganta. He has a job to do. Senji tosses him Domon's coin for luck. Ganta just shrugs him off as superstitious, but Senji tells him no. The coin always gives you the result you want. It's a one-sided coin. Oh Senji. Even as the world crumbles around him, he still has time to be a legend. I hope he never changes. Senji wishes Ganta luck as he runs off to fulfill his promise. The final character I want to talk about is Ganta's mother, Sorae Igarashi. Another doctor at the National Disease Prevention Center, Sorae started off just as cold and detached as Hagire. He, Sorae, and this third doctor are all discussing this immune response boosting project. Hagire laments that no parent would give up their child for such potentially dangerous tests. Fortunately, Sorae is a woman. She can make a test subject. Fucked up, right? I've seen some people assume this third doctor is Ganta's father, but I'm 50-50. They don't seem to be in a relationship. He calls her Miss Igarashi, which would be really weird if they were dating. But then again, there was nothing romantic about Ganta's conception. Maybe he donated sperm? I certainly hope it was him and not this guy. Sorae doesn't even pick out a name for it. No sense getting attached. It's just a guinea pig. When Sorae gives birth, we run into a problem. It turns out that Sorae is human. A young Hagire can't read the fucking room, cause of course not. It seems this birth triggered something within Sorae. She's developed a habit of sending flowers to the families of those who donated their bodies to research. That's kinda sweet actually. Ganta's maybe father tells Sorae he can't work here anymore. It's not for him. Thank God he left before things got really crazy. Before he leaves, he asks her if she wants him to take care of anything, and Sorae gives him her son. Sometime later, Sorae presents a new baby to Hagire, Shiro. Sorae bought her and her family register for testing. Shiro was his replacement. All Ganta can think about are these words as he wanders the ruins of Wonderland. As he's walking, the lights to the Ferris wheel flicker on. The same one he promised to ride with Shiro, where she was waiting for him. Ganta asks her how much she knew. Sorae told her everything when she found her diary. All of her pain should have been his. Ganta apologizes for abandoning her and forgetting, but Shiro shuts him up. Hatred made her powers stronger. During a day of testing with Hagire, Sorae tried to end the experiment. She told Shiro if she keeps using her power, she will die, not unlike what's happening to Ganta now. But she has a solution. She's working on something that contains her abilities, but Shiro was only listening to the first part. Using too much of her power will kill her? Good. Shiro wants to die. She prepares to unleash her full power as Sorae tries to stop her, but she's too late. Whatever's in that test tube protects her from the blast, but Hagire is almost blown apart by the shockwave. The earthquake that sunk Tokyo was a suicide attempt. It may have destroyed the city, but Shiro survived. While she was unconscious and Hagire was recovering from his injuries, she built Mother Goose so nothing like it could ever happen again. She tells Shiro she means so much to her. She thinks it's a joke. Before she leaves, she gives Shiro the red diamond. If anything can make her wish come true, it's this. Later that day, Hagire would find out what she's built. He demands to know how to turn it off, but she won't give that information up to him. Sorae doesn't even argue with him. She knows she's responsible. She just pulls the Tamaki. With all of this backstory in mind, it's no surprise that Wretched Egg would become so full of spite. Finally, we see how all of this started from Shiro's perspective. Shiro and Hagire are killing and dying, but Hagire is frustrated at Shiro's lack of interest. Killing gets old. She'd rather be dying. Grandpa calls it off and tells her about a school excursion coming up, and asks her if she remembers a boy with the surname Igarashi. Grandpa can't remember his name. He still thinks it's just Guinea Pig, but she recognizes immediately. That's Ganta. Without a second thought, she escapes Wonderland to give Ganta the red diamond. You already know what happens next. When Ganta finishes processing these words, he asks her who he's talking to. This isn't the Shiro he remembers, but it's not quite Wretched Egg. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the line that split Deadman Wonderland's fanbase in two. Say it with me if you know the words. There's only one Shiro. I lost my voice. I don't really know what to make of this. I feel like if you asked most people who are familiar with the series, they would tell you that this is the final twist for the ending. There was no Wretched Egg, it was all Shiro. He is holding a one-sided coin after all. But this never really sat right with me. Call me biased or in denial or whatever, but there's so much leading up to this moment that contradicts what she's saying here. I actually prefer the Viz translation of this scene. It's worded in such a way that it doesn't just break the whole series. Anyway, Shiro hates everything. Her pain, her power, the world that abandoned her, but none of that matters now. She's wanted to die for so long and she wants Ganta, the only person she ever loved, to be the one to end her suffering. Ganta bites off the skin of his thumb one last time as he echoes Shiro's first words to him in Wonderland. If you want to die, I'll kill you. Shiro responds in kind and thanks him for fulfilling her wish. It's time for one last round of Aceman. Ganta and Shiro explode from the Ferris wheel and unleash hell, all the while screaming at each other. He was supposed to come here with Mimi and Yamakatsu before Shiro took everything from him. Shiro spent so long waiting she forgot how fragile humans were, including him. Ganta is just a weakling. She drops a giant bird cage onto him, a visual metaphor for their relationship the whole series. But since he came to Wonderland, he's met so many new people who have made him more resilient. Shiro smiles as their old friend gets up again, just like he always does. When Ganta asks her why she never told him, she says something interesting. Shiro just retorts, "So what if I had?" Would Ganta have gotten stronger if he knew what this was building towards? Probably. Killing the Red Man was the original plan, but this casts doubt on what Shiro said earlier. Depending on how you want to interpret the scene, she's probably still just pushing him to get what she wants. I'm gonna be honest, I think there's only one Shiro, or whatever variation of translation you go with kind of hurts this sequence a bit. It's really weird. Wonderland is no stranger to toying with readers' emotions, but this time it's not really in a good way. Ganta once again admits his feelings. He loved her. Shiro just tells him that if he does, he'll make her wish come true. If I were to complain about this final battle for a moment, it's that the series really jerks itself off here. We get a reprise of the Woodpecker song. Karako says they're fighting absurdity itself, which is weird. I swear that guy died in chapter 53. As the fight continues, we're shown both of their red diamonds growing. Ganta and Shiro become so exhausted they stop using their branches. There's moments where these two are just punching and kicking each other. The exhausted couple continue to lay into each other in front of the collapsing tower, despite their bodies betraying them. Ganta, exhausted, raises his hand to Shiro, who makes no effort to fight back. She just smiles. Finally, this is the end. He misses. He wasn't aiming for Shiro, but the falling debris above them, saving her just as he did in the first chapter. Shiro asks why he didn't just kill her. Ganta tells her dying isn't her real wish. He's been in this exact spot before, hasn't he? When someone's given up on life, it's because there's something they think they can't have. So what does she want really? She wants to live. Normally. She wanted to go to school, make friends, ride a Ferris wheel, live a life as mundane as anyone else, one that was taken from her at birth. All she could do was hurt and destroy, with hatred and ignorance. She never wanted to be the monster, but the world gave her no choice, so she has to die. Shiro was the woodpecker, Hagire was the god of the forest, Branch of Sin was her poison beak. Okay, this next bit is gonna sound really weird considering my complaints earlier. All those years ago, discovering the series for the first time, I was Ganta. Now, years later, as an extremely fucked up adult, I'm Shiro. Shiro is my favourite character in any piece of media, because I know exactly how she feels. Despite all of its flaws, the reason I love Deadman Wonderland so much is because it's a story I see myself in more than any other. I can't possibly claim to have been through anything as horrible as her, but enough to relate to her feelings of resignation. Despite everything she's been through, the answer Deadman Wonderland presents is surprisingly simple. Even if Shiro never got the chance to live, she can start right now. Ganta draws his log on Shiro's hand with his blood, just like he did when they first met. All of the guilt, anger and sadness she felt now belongs to him. All of the pain is shared. And the world, fuck it. As long as they're together, they can do anything. Even something as big and stupid as eating a pudding the size of the earth. Okay, or even something as small and simple as finishing an old song about a woodpecker. Ganta and Shiro embrace as their red diamonds shatter in an explosion of light and blood. The nightmare is finally over. The final chapter of Deadman Wonderland is an epilogue set years after. People are already starting to forget about the old amusement park prison built on the wreckage of Tokyo. Maybe it's for the best. Its former residents are doing fine. Hitara's back to teaching, Karako's back to nursing, Makina's back in the military, and Chaplin is writing a stage show about the whole thing. Of course she is. We see on the news that Masu is breaking competitive eating records and, hey, as long as it's not babies. Minatsuki's going back to school, and Senji the fucking legend is climbing mountains with one arm. No crow claw required. We get the sense that despite the hell all of these characters have been through, things are gonna be alright. Except Yo, he lost all of his savings in Dogecoin. Thanks Kincho. The final character we catch up with is Ganta. He's supposed to be writing about his plans after graduation, but there's no time for that, he's gotta run. Despite still being scarred by the red diamond, this is the best he's ever looked. Our little shit is growing up. As Ganta leaves, Hitara finishes up his seminar and spells out the theme. To keep living despite hardship is to grow beyond the irrationality of life. Or something. Ganta visits Shiro in her hospital room. He's even brought snacks. He tells her about his day, but gets no response. The nurse has even started calling her Sleeping Beauty, which Ganta thinks is a little silly. Shiro's no princess. Still got one left in you, don't you, Ganta? Now that we're here at the end, I ask this question. Is Deadman Wonderland the greatest revenge/love story ever told? Hell no, not even close! But sometimes you just find a series that works for you and hits you in just the right spot despite everything wrong with it. I've given Ganta a lot of shit, but even then, he reminds me of myself when I was younger. For better or worse. This series isn't perfect. I'm usually quick to sell it on the fact that it's short, but I reckon it probably would have been better if it were twice as long. I don't care if people don't like it, or there's too many plot holes, or all its old fans have outgrown it. It's a series I will always come back to. I didn't title this thing Deadman Wonderland is amazing, or underrated, or, God forbid, a masterpiece. Deadman Wonderland is beautiful, because it taught me that despite whatever shit you've been put through, even if your situation feels hopeless, even if you hate the person you've become, it's never too late for things to get better. Even the most broken people can have happy endings. Ganta calls out to Shiro one last time, and she finally wakes up. He's finished his mother's old song, and it's time to let the woodpecker find happiness. And thus concludes Deadman Wonderland. Finn. So, thanks for watching this thing, or even just leaving it on in another tab. I'll freely admit I have no experience with this format, but it means a lot that you'd give it a watch. Wonderland is a story that means a lot to me, and I'm glad I was able to share it. If you follow me elsewhere, I know this isn't what you're used to from me, but thanks for humouring me regardless. If you have no idea who I am, but you're a fan of the series, hi. I hope you're not too angry with me. I'm definitely gonna make more of these at some point, so be ready for that. Maybe I'll do one for the Big Les show, who knows. Something I learned while I was editing is that Shiro is actually Japanese for white. White Shiro, red man, the two blood cells. That was a fun night when I learned that. God. I hope the opening to part 1 doesn't age horribly when I read Eureka 7. Until then, I should probably finish Smokin' Parade. Just remember, your favourite show still sucks.